Good afternoon, everyone. I want to give you the latest update on what is going with Tropical Storm Isaias. Right now, the storm system is just off of the coast of Florida. The good news, at least, is for the Floridians, is that the center of that storm circulation is still just offshore. So as we look at Fort Pierce near Melbourne, it's a good 50, 60 miles away or so, which is great. So they are seeing some of the impacts of the storm system, but they're not seeing the worst of the storm system. As we look at the infrared satellite, the storm has shrunk a little bit in the last 4 hours, something that we'll watch as we go into the rest of the evening. But the storm is still looking likely that it will impact our area. So before we get into all the details, here's just the main point. It's arriving early Tuesday morning. Wind and rain are the main impacts from the storm system, and we could see some tornadoes as Isaias moves through the area. Here's the 5 o'clock update, the fresh update from the National Hurricane Center. 70-mile-an-hour winds. It's moving to the north and northwest at 9 miles an hour. The storm is advancing towards our area, moving into South Carolina, making landfall 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and moving into North Carolina around 3 a.m., coming up into Tuesday morning once again. Now, into our area, we're looking forward to the storm arriving around 9 a.m. across the Hampton Road cities. So there's the cone, there's the pinpoint location on where the Hurricane Center believes this is going to be, and this is where we're going to see some of the biggest impacts of the storm system moving through the Hampton Road cities. It'll be during that morning time frame. 8, 9, 10, 11 a.m. or so is when we could see the biggest part of the storm moving in. For the Eastern Shore, it's a little bit later, but again, in the morning and into the early afternoon, we'll see some of the biggest impacts. Areas on the east side of the storm system, which is pretty much the majority of the area if it follows this track, we have the enhanced or elevated risk to see the tornadoes. This also includes the Outer Banks. I didn't include it in the circle there. For areas to the west of the storm, that's where the heavier rain will set up. So that's what we're seeing as that storm system moves into the area. Now, beyond then, into Tuesday late afternoon and evening, it starts to move over Delaware. The effects in our area quickly disappear and dissipate. So it's not going to linger all into the evening if it stays on this quick path and quick arrival time on Tuesday morning, and then it races off to the north. Let's talk about some of those impacts more in detail, and let me show you the trends and what the models are doing. They still have it coming through our area on that track, which brings the center of the storm right over much of the peninsula. Newport News, Williamsburg, that zone, Yorktown, that's where the center of the storm is. It doesn't really matter so much where the exact center is, if it passes over your town or not. It's more so on what side of the storm are you going to be on. That's the bigger factor. The winds could be quite strong. The rain could be heavy for some of our areas, more so inland, Ahoskie, Franklin, Williamsburg, Gloucester. We're looking at 2 inches of rain. Maybe for the Eastern Shore we could get to there too. But for spots near the water and at the beach, probably not as much rainfall. Wind gusts could be a big issue too. Look at the wind gusts as we go throughout the day here. We could see those really high wind gusts, and I'm going to go backwards and replay it once again, looking at those wind gusts. And we see some of those highest wind gusts happening as we go into that early afternoon or middle of the day time frame, where there could be some gusts 40, 50, maybe even 60 miles an hour. Let's break it down. We're starting for the Outer Banks, eastern North Carolina, 40 to 50 mile an hour winds, 60 mile an hour gusts. Not a lot of rain, big waves, tornadoes possible. For mainland North Carolina, 1 to 3 inches of rain, higher amounts further to the west. 40 mile an hour winds, 60 mile an hour gusts, tornadoes possible. The timing once again early in the morning Tuesday and going into the early afternoon is that general broad timing. We'll refine that and shrink that down a little bit more as the storm gets closer and we can really pinpoint the time, because there still is a little bit of a question on when this is going through our area. So that's why I'm keeping the timing still very broad. But once again, we'll tighten that up once we have more confidence to do that. I can't do it now because I don't want to give you the wrong information and completely think that we would be fine in the morning and bad in the afternoon. I don't want it to flip on us, so I'm keeping that broad. For the south side, we're looking at a lot of rain, really strong winds. Also for the Middle Peninsula and the Eastern Shore, we're looking at power outages, and that's for everybody. Also strong winds and some intense gusts as the storm system moves into the area. Today's been quiet across the region. We've seen the sunshine, so we've been looking okay as we've gone throughout the day. But that's where we are with the storm system. We're going to keep an eye on the weather for tonight and, of course, for Isaias and all of the weather updates coming up at 6, 10, and 11 o'clock. I'm also going to be doing a live stream on our website, wavy.com, and also on Facebook Live coming up at 9 p.m. to answer any questions that you may have about the storm. That's where we are now. We'll keep you up to date. Enjoy your evening. Stay safe.